Content warning. The stories and themes shared throughout this podcast may contain themes that can be distressing for you. If needed, please pause and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If needed, please reach out to a mental health professional for support.
Welcome back to another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. But pause the Alana and bring in Sara Clark. I met Sara on social media. Yes, guys, social media does work for connections and marketing. And she told me her story, which is so inspiring and heartbreaking all at once. Sara is a facilitator, trainer, and team coach. She likes to nerd out about people's problems, puzzling ways to bridge our many differences. Communication differences are her forte. She has spent 2 decades working on international and multicultural teams, as well as bridging her and her husband's communication style, which are both very different. Over the last year, Sara has found a new route of connecting across difference, grief, which is what brings her here to us today. Her story isn't just grief, it's tragedy. And I know there's tragedy with all grief at some level, but Sara was living her dreams in Latin America with her husband Brian when a bus accident turned everything upside down. Sara broke her leg and lost 5 teeth, and tragically, Brian died just 1 week after his 44th birthday. And when I met Sara, she told me that they met in Latin America and she shared their love story. And I'm honored that not only are you an author in Skin Deep Stories, because yours literally runs skin deep, and you have a beautiful tattoo, but your story is so heartbreaking. And the work that you're doing now and honoring his legacy, even with our community, is so beautiful. So, Sara, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Blair. I'm glad to be here with you today.
I want to hear your story. We want to hear your story. And I want to know more about Brian. Tell us about your husband, Brian, and what is he like? And let us into your world.
Thank you. Well, Brian and I in 2020 hatched a new dream of living nomadically. We, over some time together, plotted and figured out how we could do that. Brian was working remotely. He was a big nerd. He was working in assessment and research and studying well-being. And we finally made it happen. We had an estate sale and sold all like 90% of our stuff, and we moved to Latin America. And Brian was hatching a new dream. He had a habit or hobby of making pizza, but like funky pizza that blew people's minds. Like instead of a tomato sauce, he made like papaya avocado. He found
Mm.
like really interesting ways to have like a savory and sweet pizza and use local ingredients. And he was trying to plot like how could he do that more and statistics less?
Yeah,
Or
very
or maybe
different.
marry the two. I don't know.
Yeah.
He loves stats, but so we were really hitting bucket list items in Latin America, really living and loving fully when it was, I mean, there's a part of me that feels like Mexico just lent him to me because we fell in love on a bus in Mexico. He was from North Carolina and I was from Missouri. And we were on this 17-hour bus ride that was like 50 dates smashed into one. And by the time we got to the coast, we were like in love. But we didn't say it yet because I was like, okay, this is too soon. But it was very clear by the end of the week that we were just madly in love and continued to be. I mean, we put in the hard work of marriage of 18
Mhm.
years, but we really returning to that coast for his birthday was a really beautiful reminiscing of not wanting to go back and be those same selves. We didn't need to revitalize something. We liked how the relationship had evolved and where we were today or in those days together.
I think there's something so tragically poetic about where your love began and where his life was taken.
Yeah. And that it was the same coast, same town that we were visiting.
Oh,
And that, yeah, and that the accident was on a bus, that we fell in love on a bus, and then it was a bus accident. It just
It's
and
terrible. It's terrible.
it is. It is. Um, and just to bring in, skin deep stories, that I have this tattoo of ocean waves because of that. When we were falling in love in Mexico, I had an accident. We were on the coast on this rocky ledge that we thought was safe. We thought we were really clever. And this wave came in and it grabbed me and tossed me across the rocks. But Brian grabbed a hold of me and kept me from getting washed out to sea. And
Mm.
eventually I ended up getting a tattoo with that in mind. And now from the accident, like breaking my femur, and I have all these scars running through, and I've had to do a second surgery because the bone hasn't healed. It's been 14 months now, and we're hoping surgery number two is going to do the trick. But I've got all these scars and running through the tattoo, and it really feels to me like another experience of being held to shore,
Hmm.
like this symbol of being held to shore while Brian's wave went out into the ocean. Like he's returned to the sea. But I'm still here, and I have people grounding me and tying me to being here and being alive in this life that I now live for the both of us.
It's so sad, and I really like from the bottom of my heart appreciate you sharing because it is still raw and recent.
It is. Yeah. There's parts of me that feel like, oh, okay. There's moments where I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay. And this both and of both, like, yes, that is true. I am doing okay. And this still really freaking sucks. Like it still really hurts. And I imagine that it always will to some extent. Like it'll change over time, but there's no like getting through to an end where I'm no longer griefy for him.
No, no, no. I mean, I live deep in grief, and I can tell you that it doesn't go away. You just learn to layer life around it. Sometimes the deep pain surfaces, but you're able to start having all these other life experiences while holding the weight of the grief, and that your resilience muscle just gets stronger. And, but the thing is, it doesn't take away from the heaviness and the sadness. And it's okay to like feel joy and extreme sorrow at the same time. You just like in this new phase of life, this season, you learn to carry both, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're still navigating it because your femur didn't heal. You still have the surgery. Like 14 months, that's just a little bit over a year.
Yeah.
What was the anniversary of the accident?
September 30th, and he died the next morning on October 1st.
Damn.
Mhm.
Um, I without going into, I guess, too much, and like again, you can share whatever you want. Can you explain what happened with the bus accident?
Well,
Like what,
um,
yeah, where were you and what
yeah.
happened?
So we were on this highway between the coast and Oaxaca City, and it's pretty curvy. And I don't know what happened, honestly. I don't have memories of the first 24 hours. Remember the bus ride. So what I know is that the driver had a head-on collision with a semi, and I've seen a picture of the accident, and it was gnarly. Like people, and I haven't looked at all the photos, but people who have are like, I don't know how anybody lived.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and um, Yeah, I my memories pick up the next day in the hospital, and there was a good Samaritan who came across the accident and entered the bus, and something about my behavior called to her of like us needing help, and she helped us get out of the bus, and she stayed with me in the hospital until one of my sisters could arrive and be with me,
Wow.
and we did the first femur surgery there, and then my family got me back to my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, where I spent then some of my recovery has been there. Most of my recovery has been there with my family.
A complete stranger saw you, got you and Brian out of the bus and stayed with you.
Yeah. She rode with us in an ambulance
Oh my
and like
gosh.
stayed, let's see, Monday. She stayed with me from Monday evening to Wednesday morning.
Do you stay in touch with her? Do you know who she is?
I do. Yeah. We haven't stayed in close contact. I kind of imagine it was traumatic for her as well.
Oh.
But we did, in the lead up to the anniversary, I reached out again and she responded. And she's a badass working in the construction industry as a young Mexican woman and does cool stuff there. So,
And she's almost like also a hero and a good
yeah, yeah,
human.
yes, yes,
Oh, that's
yes.
it just
Much love to
yeah,
Elvia. She, yes,
Elvia.
I think is an engineer and works with maybe had some familiarity with highway systems. Like when she approached the accident, there was something in her that was like felt resourced enough to engage that.
That's amazing. That I always help. I mean, in that situation, I don't know if I would be resourced enough. That's amazing that she did that, but I really believe in helping. If someone, like, if I see someone sad in a Starbucks, I'll check in on them. If someone needs help, I will do my best to always help. And, I think the world's full of really great people. We just need, you know, they're all around us. Look for the helpers, right? Mr. Rogers used to say, like, look around
Yeah.
for the helpers.
And I think be able to receive. So,
Mm.
we mentioned the year anniversary just passed a couple months ago. And Brian's birthday was a week before that. And as we started to go into those 2 weeks, I was feeling a lot. And I decided to send a call out to some friends. Like, here's a sign up of all the dates of the next 2 weeks. I would like, if you want to be a point person, have a different point person every day that you could reach out to me or I can reach out to you. And just if I need extra support, because I don't know what this is going to be like.
The most organized griever over here, kids. Sara Clark. Okay, wait. Okay, so this is actually great that you did that. So, because you knew you'd need extra support, you created this system, and
Yes.
ahead of time we were chatting. Like nothing prepares you for becoming a widow. Nothing prepares you for a tragic accident, losing someone you love in a foreign country. Nothing prepares you. But you went into this. Well, you didn't go into this accident. This accident happened. But you had resources, you had tools. And I think just with what you said about, getting what you needed, like asking for what you need and preparing leading up to the 2 weeks, let's talk about that because I know with the work I do, I preach on how to strengthen your resilience muscle and how to do things proactively so when you need them, you have more tools. So it's like slightly less terrible. Let's talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Okay, if we rewind a bunch of years, I got involved in a time bank. So this is going to part of like gift economy, resource sharing, and I loved the time bank. So you would earn hours by helping people with
Yeah.
things, and then you would have these hours you could spend in somebody helping you. And I helped people when they came into the time bank identify what they could offer and what they could receive, like what did they need. And it was really interesting to watch people have different reactions because some people like, I don't have anything to offer. And it's like, do you have two hands and can help someone hang a photo in their house? Then you have something to offer. Other people could offer ton. They're like, oh, I can do this and I can do this. But the like receiving of like what they could want or need, what would feel good was really hard. And so I think that there's a muscle there of us just practicing in our communities, both giving
Mhm.
and receiving. So I feel like that's a piece of this. Like, can we just practice in our daily life when somebody says, "Oh, do you want this?" instead of a default no, which some of us do.
Yeah.
No, 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 I don't need a cookie. Like, but no, wait, I do want a cookie. Like, yes,
Yeah.
please. So can we practice receiving?
And I think that's really like, it's funny that you bring that up because I'm a child of divorce, first child, super independent. and like, no, I don't need help. I can do it on my own, but actually really softening and leaning into in my grief, like, yes, I want to accept your help. Yes, I'll accept your compliment. Because, even compliments like, wow, your hair looks good. That's not actually right now. If you're watching the video, I flew home a million hours yesterday from Australia and now I'm in LA. But like, if my hair looked nice and someone's like, oh, like your hair looks good, my answer isn't to say thank you. It's, oh, I showered. And it's like, actually, can't I just receive? So it starts with those
Yeah.
small things. But then when it becomes something big, like, needing someone to cook for you or like shovel your driveway or you're feeling griefy and you can't function but you need to get some meds, like
Yeah.
getting help and asking for help, because we're all
Yeah.
so proud, but we don't. Being proud is asking for help. It's not asking for help and suffering.
Yeah. Yes. And what I would say, going back to that, the support team that showed up for me in that year anniversary time period, I just asked for what I thought I needed. I did not anticipate what the result was going to be for me.
Mm,
But what it did was it opened me up to receive what I was thinking of as support, but receive love. Like people just poured their love into me. And that then kind of reverberated around. It was like, oh, and I started feeling more love.
hmm.
There was a friendship that felt like it was reinvigorated from the experience. And then some newer friends that was amplified. And so I left those 2 weeks of that I had really been bracing for in a way of feeling I and I couldn't believe it. Like I'm starting year 2 of this widowhood, and love was the primary emotion that was coming up for me. My love for Brian is intertwined with all of that. It's like feeling my love with him, feeling my love with my friends, feeling love with my family, and for myself, and for life, which is not a small thing.
Mm. Loving life and your love for life, which is not a small thing, that is a very powerful statement. And it's sometimes for me, and I don't want to put words into other people's mouths, but in the time of such deep sorrow, it is hard sometimes for me to love life. And I still get those moments where I no longer want to not be here. In my first few years, I definitely, had that with all the extreme loss in such a short period of time where I thought it'd be easier to not be here
Yeah.
because dying is easy, living is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me follow that for a moment because this is another piece that situated me in a way, I think, for navigating this extreme despair. So, interestingly, in the about 2 years prior to Brian passing, I did a yoga program that was really heavy in philosophy as well. So this was in Medellin, Colombia, and I'm with all these Colombian women and learning yoga philosophy in Spanish. It was a great test of my Spanish. Um, but they were talking about the importance of feeling our feelings, like accessing them fully.
Hmm.
And the navigating, like, what do we mean by attachment and things? And they're talking about yoga as this place for the heart. It's not going away to some retreat where everything's perfect and then you can be very calm there. It's about what do you do in daily life when shit gets real and
Hmm.
is hard now. And one of the things that came up for me is Brian lived hard on his body. He never imagined living to really old age. Like we would talk about retirement. And he's like, I can't imagine myself retiring. And he also, his brain and was really important to him. And one of his fears was dementia and quality of life going down. And he always said like, oh, I'd want to end it before I couldn't. And that's hard for a partner to hear, or was for me. I'll just say, like, for me, like, I was kind of like, oh, okay, okay. But there is this sense that like being a woman, being 4 years younger than him, and him saying these things and knowing that he'd been kind of tough on his body, I figured I would be widowed at some point. I assumed it would be far in the future, but at some point I knew that that would happen. And somehow in this process of the yoga program and working with my therapist, I really came to identify like what is there's like some of control responses came
Mm,
up for me of like, okay, well, you need to like I want you to eat healthier, I want you to like exercise more, or
hmm
some, that kind of like it's like, well, what is that about? I was like, oh, it's about the fear of him dying.
mm.
And then when I could like, well, why do I fear him dying? It's like, because I love him so damn much. And when I could change and see like every year, like I don't own his body. He had his autonomy. He makes his own decisions. Every year of life we spend together is a gift, was a gift. Every day is a gift.
hmm
And when I was able to settle into that, not try to control him, and just settle into feeling the love, like the depth of the love and letting go of like, yep, well, right now is the gift. That's how we spent our last like year and a half together, was just living into that love fully, which also let me feel his love fully, deeper than I had even felt it before, and
Wow.
be present with each other.
This interview is about you, but you just, I really need to hear that.
What comes up for you?
So, my husband, on the sixth anniversary of his open heart surgery from his heart attack and quadruple bypass, he had a stroke
Yeah.
right before I left to go to Australia. And yeah, and he's okay. Like he's working, he thinks he can ski. He just doesn't have full movement or function of his left hand or foot. And I think he just gets tired. And I believe he's working on it every day, on the road with his work. But being a widow now, almost being widowed twice, and now I'm 40, it's on my forefront. Also, an
Yeah.
extreme athlete. Like he's an ex-pro skier and like no fear.
Yeah.
And he's type 1 diabetic. And there's been a couple situations where I've had to call an ambulance. So it's not like it's a reality that I will become a widow one day. And that
Yeah.
one day might be in 20 years
Yeah.
or sooner. He's going to be 50 in July. And so when I kind of came to terms, like I was thinking a lot on this trip because he had this stroke and then I had a medical issue and I was in the hospital, anyways. And then I went to Australia and I'm still not home. But I've
Yeah.
done a lot of reflecting over this last time, like period of time while traveling about like, he lives his best life and he wakes up as if every day is the best day ever and does his best and he's so positive. And for me, I'm no longer trying to like force him to be healthy. I'm forcing him to remove things from his life that aren't healthy because now there's certain things he cannot do
Mhm.
because he might have another stroke and die.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's just like I have to release some control because I can't control. Like he's a
Yeah.
grown ass man. And so
Yeah.
I can express my opinions and my concerns. And if he's making choices that are definitely walking towards the grave, I have an opportunity to express concern and choose what I do with my life. But now that there's been also this like you're an extreme athlete and you do this and the heart attack and the stroke. Oh my God, and you're almost 50 and you're diabetic. It's like how do I make the most of our time here instead of sitting here worrying and being in control? What are
Yeah.
we going to do to live our best life together?
Yeah. Yeah. It, yes. And there is one caveat I want to make of it's when somebody's choices are impacting us in some direct
Hmm
way, that's that's
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
like needs that's a different kind of situation, I think,
yeah,
what needs to be addressed. And so I just want to honor that because
yes.
and yes, if somebody, I mean, we will be impacted in a direct way, but
But it's funny. It's not
maybe,
funny that you brought this up because that's not the right word, but it's very serendipitous because it's been on my mind. Like when the stroke happened, one of the first things his mom said to me was like, "You better get your wills in order." I'm like, "What?" But
yeah,
it's actually a matter of fact, and we've been I
yes,
started working on it right before our trip. And when, he's on the road a lot. So when we're in the same place at the same time, hopefully, in the next little bit, we get those sorted because one of us will end up a widow.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I'm, if, and when that, if that happens to me, it's going to be terrible, but I'm
Yeah.
not shocked.
Yeah.
And like, what a weird thing to accept.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for you, Brian, like what, all the salad in the world couldn't control what happened.
Right. And he made great salads, by the way. So
And
he did get on
pizza.
board. And pizza, salad and pizza were the jam. But yeah, none of the reining this or that in or doing this or that more was going to change what happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
And am I so freaking glad that we lived so big in those last years that I didn't rein him in, that he got to experience the things he wanted to experience.
Mm-hmm.
It it puts me in a position that I think is uncommon, that I don't have big regrets. I don't. This is another piece of communication as you're doing the intro, being a communication nerd.
Yeah.
I said the things that I wanted to say to him.
Mm-hmm.
I repaired the things that I said that I, didn't
Mm-hmm.
wish I hadn't. And we navigated our communication differences. He was like direct and emotionally expressive with anger or emotion, like not angry at me, but emotion about the world. Um, and I grew up in the US Midwest, a little more indirect and like emotionally neutral with our like upset. And it's like, oh, I'm very upset with you right now. Um,
Is that how the Midwest is? I'm Canadian. I have no idea.
yeah, there's like this like nice that at least for yeah,
Yeah.
the way my particular subculture in which I was raised in. Um, and so we navigated that though, and we figured it out, and that we came to a place where there was a good flow of communication. We didn't, I mean, of course, we still stepped in it here and there, but I am at this place where I can love the life we live together and be grateful for it and still be really upset that he's not here with me. Like he should still be here.
He should still be here. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And your perspective amongst the tragedy is very beautiful and it's very inspiring. It's very, very inspiring. And I feel like we can go on forever, but it's a podcast. So we don't have forever. And what is forever? Which I question all the time. Forever is until it's over.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm so honored that you chose to share the story of you and Brian and your tattoo with our community. I'm so honored to be able to put you up on a billboard in Times Square in honor of Brian and your love story and put you in our book. And we get to meet in person before the book comes. Well, the book comes out that weekend. And I think it's going to be a beautiful way to honor not just you, but Brian.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what advice do you have for someone who's going through something similar and perhaps not just maybe someone who is widowed, but someone who is tragically widowed?
Yeah. I would say finding ways to welcome all the emotions and really go feel them and have the support teams as you need them for feeling them. But we've talked today that it's not just one or the other. One doesn't
Hmm.
cancel each other out. And people are going to say shit to you, implying that they cancel each other out. Like, oh, I'm so glad you're good now. And it's like, huh. Or this happened, but so glad you had so long together. And it's like, no, there's no, the but, no. Um, it's an and. These things live
Mm,
together. And I think that doing that for ourselves, also, I've seen it ripples out of us being able to hold our friends when they're in big grief or in a devastating situation. And maybe we're living our best life. How can we hold both of those? We see
hmm.
things happening in the world that are tragic. and making space for that reality alongside whatever our reality is.
That is so beautiful, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing part of your story and spending time with us today on Resilient AF with Blair and Alana.
Thank you, Blair. What a pleasure.
And to everyone who joined us, it's okay to not be okay. You are not alone. You will get through it. You don't have to do it alone. You can be like Sarah and make a list 2 weeks before an anniversary and ask for help and offer support to those who also need it. We aren't meant to do this thing called life alone. We're here as a community to walk through the hardness and the sadness and the darkness together so that we can celebrate in the light. And we are here at the Global Resilience Project to do that with you. So just remember, friends, you are resilient AF. Thank you.
That's a wrap for another episode of Resilient AF with Blair and Alana. And thank you for listening. Are you feeling inspired to bounce forward?
Let's connect at theglobalresilienceproject.com, where you can read many stories of resilience, buy our books, shop our clothing line, learn more about how to strengthen your resilience muscle, be empowered, and more.
Remember, friends, you are Resilient AF.